I think we're going to see the last of this time. I think that's what Mayan calendar was all about. 2012, entering another period of Earth changing, and I
Right.
think that started in 2012 when we're all started getting enlightened a little bit, like we're doing now. And I think talking like you talking, like I talk, and like a lot of other people are talking now, same page we're on, and that's going to enlighten more and more people because what we got makes sense if people just do some research and look into it and don't close their veil because it's all out there and it's all. My books are based on usually quantum facts and quantum physics is not a woo. It's not the paranormal. It's what answers a lot of the woo situations. A lot of people have what they call a paranormal event, but that's just quantum physics can explain a lot of that stuff. It did with us at a camp up there in the Sierras.
A Kodega is a guide and a storyteller, escorting you through the night, lighting the way, warding off thieves, ghosts, demons, and other oddities. Along the journey, his companions would often share with him the most curious of stories that he'd record in his codex. Perhaps you just might find yourself traveling with a Kodega and sharing one of yours. Click that like. If you're new here, subscribe and have the bell hit for notifications to stay up to date on all of the new content. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rye, your guide on this adventure as we traverse with the Codex, the Codega's Codex, and we go and investigate some curiosities like we always do. Tonight's curiosity is the legend. We're going to have the legend on, Ron Morehead. But I'm sure he's talked to the ends of the earth about his Sierra Sounds, but I would love to hear more about some of his other adventures, some of his other great quests, maybe some other experiences that he's had, and just his take on everything in itself. So before we get to Ron, I want to say thank you to everybody for helping with the show, watching the show. Really appreciate it. If you yourself have had an experience, an encounter, or you've done some research on your own and you would like to get on, give me an email at send me an email at codexofcuriosities@gmail.com. Also, definitely need everybody helping out and supporting the show. And if you want to support the show, I have a Patreon. We have a $5 tier and a $25 tier. Also, I have a merch store as well. Links are always in the bio. Great logos, and I'm going to be adding some more stuff here very soon as I upgrade all my my logos. So with that, I think it's time we should just jump right into this and bring Ron on to Codega's Codex of Curiosities. Welcome, Ron.
Oh, thank you. Why not?
Why not? Exactly. I'm,
Yeah.
extremely happy to have you on here. It's been something I've always wanted to have a chat with the legendary Ron Morehead, of the Sierra Sounds, which you are completely famous for, in the cryptid community. Everybody knows.
Well, I guess it has been, it wasn't what I set out to do, but it just happened because I ran into these creatures and it all happened. We had it, Sarah sounds have been time tested by science
Yes.
and it's a pretty renowned stuff. I had no idea it'd be this kind of attention 50 years later because this happened to me 50 years ago. It started me on a trek around the world exploring things. And
50 years, that was back in the 60s, correct? When the Sierra Sounds
71.
71. Okay.
didn't know what started me. Yeah.
Just a little bit beyond my age, 76, so a little bit beyond my age, but something. And it was kind of strange because personally for myself, I didn't hear the Sierra Sounds until maybe I was in my late 30s, early 40s. It was something that was never I find that the cryptid community is just exploding lately. There has been so many more, and it's not that yours, like your addition to the cryptid community has been fantastic, but it just seems like maybe, I don't know. There's seems to be a lot more sightings, a lot more, maybe photographic or video evidence. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's going to get more and more as we go. They're expanding. I mean, they're multiplying, and of course we got the UFO phenomena too, which is associated with them, I think, and they're out now and showing themselves. So I think, I think it's going to get more and more. These events I used to go to 20 years ago when I was speaking, you didn't talk about the cryptid stuff. You just talked about the Bigfoot that you knew, and didn't let all the little secret stuff that you knew was really happening. And but now I talk about it. I've written books about it now, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger. I speak at these conventions now. Instead of hundreds, there's sometimes thousands, and that's there's a lot of interest in it. Just a lot of people are having phenomenal things happen to them, and they a lot of times it's all stuff that I've had happen to me, and I can help them sometimes explain it. It gets into my quantum Bigfoot.
I've heard a little bit about the quantum Bigfoot, and that's definitely something I would love to get into here. I do have a couple questions. What do you think the connection is between the UFOs and Bigfoot?
Well, let me back up just a tad with you. They're not all
sure.
the same. All the Bigfoots are not the same. They're not.
I could not agree more. Perfect.
There's been all kinds of species come to this planet out from the cosmos in the past millions of years. And they mess with the genome of different species on this planet. And Bigfoot, Dogman, those things like that are just a manipulation of the genome of an animal or a primate or like a troglodyte caveman that was here or something like that. And then, so they're not all the same, and a lot of them have diluted down from their original position by crossbreeding with indigenous people. A lot of the Bigfoots have. We'll refer to them collectively as Bigfoot because that's what most people, that's what they're thinking. So they had a Bigfoot. We call them Bigfoot because that's what we ran into. And had a big voice. And but again, I've been all over the world with the thing, and they're just not all the same in my opinion. There just has to be a difference, and it all falls right into UFO and intervention by creatures from the cosmos. A lot of them are here now still, and they're messing with it's a hybridization program going on this planet, and it's really significant, I think, that we all understand that and understand. The Bigfoot thing just brought me into this ethereal part of who we are as humans and what they could be, because I've established in my most recent book, The Bigfoot Unveiled, that they have to have a human component to them. And there's no way out of that, as far as I can see, just from the studies I've had done by Professor Curran, the sound engineer, and Scott Nelson, the cryptolinguist, a two-time graduate from the Navy, and also Dr. Philip Lieberman from Brown University. So you put those three together, because Dr. Curran said they represented an animal 8 foot tall, over 8 foot tall. Then you got Scott Nelson says those vocalizations we had that we recorded represents a language, by the human definition language. Then you get into a cognitive researcher, scientist, Philip Lieberman, who says only humans have the vocal mechanism, hide bone with the tongue, connect by the nervous system into the brain to relate what you're thinking in words. Now, no other animal on the face of this planet has that. You got dolphins, they communicate, whales communicate, every animal, all animals communicate, either infrasound, ultrasound, or just regular vocalizations, but they don't have sound language like we do. So that's true. It's a human component to them, as far as I'm concerned. Which takes me all the way back into Mesopotamia when I started researching where giants came from. I got up into Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki, the cuneiform texts.
yes, the Anunnaki. Yes, the cuneiform text.
And you find out from there, you got the first 6. I was raised religiously, so I know the Bible fairly well. You get in the first few chapters of Genesis, and it sounds like it just happened in a few hundred years or something like that. But really, it happened over hundreds of thousands of years when you get into cuneiform text, which is the oldest known form of written language there is to man, 3400 BCE. And when you start looking at that stuff and realizing just what really did happen, it parallels with a lot of our biblical stuff. It doesn't wipe it out; it just expounds on it really thoroughly. And
I could not
that's where you
agree
get your
more with
education.
that. Yeah, like it complements. They complement each other.
Right. Well, cuneiform text definitely complements the Bible because you get into the brothers, the different things like that was happened, and Enki and Enil, and you get into what God was even called in the cuneiform text as Elohim. It wasn't ever God, but then when the translations come out through different texts, like our Bibles, different times, starting from Saint Constantine in 326, when he developed the Nicene Creed and said these are the 4 chapters of the book that you can worship, and that's it. It's all about control. That's what I think a lot of religions are, because spirituality and religion is 2 different things. And I get into spirituality because I'm not a religious person anymore, because I just believe a little differently than the religions that I've been around all my life, or most of my life. So I get into that, and it's really been fun. It's quite an adventure. I've had a lot of
Wow.
fun with it. Yeah.
I definitely I love the path that you're going with this. It's and so you said you were out hunting for giants, or like you're connecting them with giants is and like so we hit on hybridization, giants, and they have to have some sort of human component within them as well. Do you believe maybe that's what happened to the Neanderthals? Like the Neanderthal, I know it's not human erectus, but could the Neanderthals been toyed with and turned into some like, because I did hear, I had a gentleman on that he said for all intents and purposes that this Bigfoot looked like a Neanderthal.
Mhm.
Is
Well,
that a possibility?
it's possible. Everything's possible in
Hmm.
quantum physics. But you get into the Anunnaki, how they created man, and they did. The ninth dimensional beings is what they were, the shiny
Hmm.
ones, and the only part of them were bad, that came into Earth and decided to take density in the 3-dimensional form that we're in now. And that made them mortal, even though they lived a long, long time. But our telomeres have been cut, so we don't have the lifespan that men used to have. And that's they know that from our DNA. So
Yes.
anyway, I think they may have taken a Neanderthal or a troglodyte of some type. Could have been
Hmm.
Cro-Magnon, could have been, who knows, just. But they messed with the genome and created a human. They created a Bigfoot, and that made a giant. And they didn't like what was happening then. So uh, we were created after that, Homo sapiens. And
Interesting.
I think probably a lot of time gone by between all that. And yeah, that's why the Native Americans call them their big brother.
The big, yes, yes,
Yeah.
it's so true. And I know before we started talking, behind you, I noticed that you had a Paracas skull there. So this adventure is, this took you on that adventure into Peru as well. I'd love to hear a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I got with L.A. Missoula, who went down. He was taking a trip down there to put the evidence behind the Nephilim, really.
Yeah.
And he wanted to see if the elongated skulls. And so I went down there with him. Mainly, my position was I've encountered them, as he knew, and I went down though to see if they had anything to do with the sagittal crest. That's just so the elongated skull had anything to do with the sagittal crest that are reported quite a bit on the Bigfoots up here. And that trail lead me after I went down. I went down there 2 different years with 2 different scientists, and both times with LA though. He's a good man, and they took us on a trip with Brian Forrester, led us around different spots down there, looking at remains of different things, and we found some skulls and things like that. This skull you see behind me there, that's one that was recast by Joe Taylor, who just recently passed away a few months ago, and he got permission from Senor Jose Juan, Senor Juan down there at his museum to cast it, to make a form, and he came back and made it exactly. He's probably one of the best in the world. Was one of the best in the world at doing that. And I'm glad LA found him because him and I became good friends, and we ended up researching some things together. But he,
sorry for your loss on Brian. I mean, sorry for your loss on that on him.
Joe Taylor, yeah, he was a good man. He drank too many Pepsis though.
Fair enough. Okay.
Well,
no, I'll take a note of that because I do enjoy my Pepsi.
I'm not taking anybody's karma away from them. They got to live their own life, so I don't judge anybody. And he was a good man. I loved him. But yeah, I went up to the Lovelock Caves with him because I found out there's a crumb trail from these Paracas skulls all the way up where the Incas warred with the Aztec and the Mayan in Central America. Then you had the Mayans have a paper crumb trail. I gotta get myself together here. Crumb trail going up into the North America, and that took me to the Lovelock Caves in Nevada. And Nevada, I've been there 4 times trying to dig up information. I went there with Joe Taylor one time and to try to cast what we thought was a handprint, a giant handprint on a boulder that was there. And that was interesting. And I told LA about it, and LA wanted to see it. So he came up and we met in Reno and drove over there. And a few weeks later, it had already been taken away by the BLM, I think.
Really?
And it was gone. But I got pictures of it, I documented everything. And it may not have been a handprint. It may have been an inference, but you'll never know now because they took it away. Because what happened was M.K. Davis and I forgot his name, Don Monroe. Yeah, we went there, and they're the ones that got me over there too another time. And they showed me the hand, and I started documenting and filming everything that was going on. And they announced it too soon. As soon as they announced it, hey, we found a giant hand. It was all over the internet. And that's when BLM, I think, got a hold of it. And they don't want the thought of giants ever being in that cave. I wrote down, I contacted them, I went to the museums there trying to get more information on the artifacts that was taken out of that cave in 1911 to 1920 something. It's not around. The skulls and the bones are gone. And they're all been taken away by probably the Smithsonian.
Yeah. They seem to skirt everything away.
Yeah, well, they don't want to disturb the narrative. If our leadership can't control the narrative, they don't want to let it out. They make fun of it, one or the other.
Exactly. Why? So this is a question I have. Why do you think that they try to hide this narrative? Why? Like, same thing with Egypt as well. I'm very surprised that you were allowed to cast the skull in Peru, which is fantastic. In Egypt, it is like this is the set. Nothing else can ever be said about these things. Everything is so hush and covered up.
Well, first of all, we didn't ask the government. We asked the owner of the skull.
Yes.
And that was Jose or Juan, Senor Juan. He passed away. Everybody dying nowadays, But anyway,
they're getting the answers. Then on the other side, they're getting all the answers.
And we also got the permission. He had the baby skull there, which was still in the mummification state. It was wrapped around, and so we got to unwrap that. And I got a copy of that also here.
Wow.
And so they're far and few between. And Joe's not around anymore, so.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a museum in Texas, in Mount Blanco. But anyway, it was quite an adventure, going down there and seeing all the remains and going into those areas with Brian Forrester and being taken around down there. It opens your eyes up to seeing just what really went on here ancient times ago, because those things are they're not human. The DNA's been done on them now. They're not human.
Yeah, I believe the half the DNA is human though. It is from Middle East. It's Middle East. It's the mother DNA.
Yeah, the mitochondrial DNA. Yeah.
Mitochondrial. Thank you.
And it's also that was kind of given to us by Melba Ketchum a few years ago, but she got thumbs down from the academic community because it had human genome in it. They said, well, it has to be contaminated. Well, No, it doesn't have to be contaminated. If you follow my theory on this, and I believe it just because it makes sense to me. And you got the other physicists of 17,000 feet in the Himalayas up above Bhutan, went up there with a National Geographic expedition. They found some eDNA out of some bipedal tracks up there in the 17,000 feet. She came back with the same thing. It's the mitochondrial, 99% human. So you got those things, but you never see that. I had to end with the royal family over there in Bhutan, so I had a little bit of a pull. They gave me the original document, but you don't see that being played anywhere.
Not at all.
They can't handle that narrative. First of all, it's going to throw a real kink into religions, and all religions. It'll throw a kink into all the money that they've spent. Our government has spent on scientific approaches. Once our government gives somebody money, they want the results that they want.
Yeah.
And so science better find the answer they want, or they're not going to use
it. Exactly. They'll manipulate the science and.
So our whole textbooks and everything will have to be changed. History is fixed to be changed, by the way. You can't just keep going like this without somebody correcting it on a higher level.
Yes.
And they're trying to correct it from the UFO standpoint, but they're going to also correct it from ancient alien stuff, from the Anunnaki, because that's a fact. It's not a theory. There's over 10,000 tablets with this Anunnaki written on it, and the Sumerians.
It's like, when we see these tablets, we, in some ways, people will accept part of their truths, but they're like, no, that other stuff doesn't even exist. I'm like, no, you can't do that. If you have to accept it all. It's not like they just all of a sudden decide to write, nonfiction. I mean, sorry, fictitious stories. Along with their, the laws and their nonfiction. The real truth. And you just like, no, this part doesn't exist. That was just something they made up.
So many Bibles and so many all the way up from, like I say, Constantine, all the way through to the King James in 1611 with his 36 scholars. They all got their parameters made with their what's been trained to their brain to work with, and they will translate it the way that they think it's supposed to be. And they're good people, but I'm not sure about Constantine. But anyway, just about all languages came from that core from the cuneiform text. It's either cuneiform or cuneiform. I hear it pronounced both ways.
I think it's cuneiform, exactly like you're saying. And I totally agree. It's kind of like, we used to play as kids. We played that game called the telephone game, where you whisper in someone's ear and you keep passing it around. You keep passing this message, and the message gets, changed as it's going around. And it's because well, I heard this, and so I'm going to tell you this, but I heard that. And that is exactly what's happening with a lot of these texts. And I agree with you. A lot of people, they're not doing it maliciously. This is their interpretation.
That's a real good analogy.
Yeah. And it's open to be changed. I mean, like, my experiences will change what I tell you. I might see this sun setting and I'm like, oh, this is purple and this is blue. And then from your experiences, you might be like, well, no, it's orange and yellow. And it's the same thing. It's all the same thing.
From the day of our birth, we're conditioned. Our brain is being conditioned to learn certain languages, learn what's right and what's wrong, what religion to believe in, what religion to throw out the door. We're brainwashed. And until you open that up, it's like a parachute. If you don't open it, it ain't going to work. So
I could not agree more. Like Yoda from Star Wars said, first you have to unlearn so that you can relearn. It's so true. We have to, erase what we've put into there. And it's hard. It's exactly like you said, like, it's brainwashing, it's conditioning. And again, our teachers aren't doing it maliciously, but this information they're being fed is, they believe it to be true, but it's someone else's word.
Yeah, it's a way to do that, and that's why I get into balancing your system, so you can your pineal gland, which is your receptor, I believe, to be the one that Christ wanted us to be. We're all one energy. We just have to learn how to connect with it. You learn to connect with it because your pineal gland will connect right into the heart's brain. The heart has a brain, by the way. Most people don't know that. They think it's just a muscle down there pumping, but it has a brain. That brain gives you that gut feeling. All of a sudden you feel like it tells your head, certain things, but you'll be your head will analyze it because that's what it hasn't been taught that. So no, Mrs. Jones over here, she does need help, but this over here will bring me $1,000 in just an hour's worth of work. So I'm gonna go over here. Well, your heart says go there to Mrs. Jones. By the way, are you listening, Mrs. Jones? But anyway, yeah, you gotta learn how to follow your heart and let your brain expand a little bit, and that'll help your personal vibration because we're all energy, frequency, and vibration at the most minute level of our existence. Everything is.
Yes.
And Einstein says if you find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. Wow, that's kind of a big statement. Everything is frequency. And that was established mathematically again by Dr. Dirac. Paul Dirac got the Nobel Prize in 1933 for establishing what they call antimatter. And that's the direct exchange between energy and matter. Matter and energy are interchangeable. And then you got the Hadron Collider in 2012, which established that physically the two particles collided and created energy. That's what they call the God particle. And that scared a lot of people. But most people don't realize how significant that was because it really factually showed how that does happen. So people want to know, can Bigfoot disappear? I've seen one disappear. I've had that told me a few times, my 50 years of doing this. And I used to just put those people up on the shelf, but I don't do that anymore because I know they can do that. They do that through energy matter exchanging. I think they have the frequency or know how to, not all of them. I can back up, they're not all the same. I got to stress that. Anyway, I think they can create the vocal frequency to change their matter into energy.
I totally, I do agree with you, and there is, there's people talking about them cloaking as well. And it's,
that's what I'm talking about.
What's that? Sorry?
That's what I'm talking about. Cloaking.
And when we talk about cloaking, people don't understand that there are animals as well that we have in our animal kingdom that can do that, like the octopus, the cuttlefish, they can change, not necessarily cloak as in go invisible, but they can change to their surroundings as well. And
camouflage, yeah.
Yes, yeah, extremely, extremely well. And and people deny that, but I'm like, well, if you want to step away from, and I hate calling it the woo, I really hate calling it the woo, but if you don't want to believe in the woo, then just look at nature itself already. We already have animals that can perform these kind of camouflage. Could that not happen in a primate? Well, I don't want to say a primate either, but can that happen in this creature, this hybrid?
Well, yeah, I think I'm sure they can melt into the forest pretty easy, but if they can cloak, that's a different story.
I do agree. I really
we only see our frequency of light. That's all we see by. Without light, we wouldn't see. So our frequency of light is 1 in 3,770 terahertz. And you get out of that frequency, and there's a lot more of them out there. You get out of that frequency range, and you won't see anything. A cat can see better than we can. Cat has a better range of visibility. Now, camera's lens sometimes can also. Camera can pick up orbs when our eyes don't. We got to understand our human limitations. A bear can smell 20 times better than we can. That's a lot. I found that out from a forest ranger in Yosemite. He said the bear likes peaches. We put all these cans out there, and they can read. They can read the one that says peaches on it. No, they can smell it through the can. It's always taking the peaches, and then you got you got infrasound and ultrasound. We don't hear those, but we know those exist. So when you know what does exist that you don't have access to, it kind of opens you up a little bit. And that's a big help to people. Because once you start opening up yourself to this stuff, your vibrational frequency will get higher, and we need to get out of our.
We need to get out of our minds.
Or a third dimension. Actually, we got to live in our third dimension, and we're here. You and I are here, so we have to live by Newtonian physics too. But that's not all there is. Everything from the atom all the way through the cosmos works on the laws of quantum physics. That doesn't negate Newtonian physics at all. It just means that there's more out there. There's more dimensions out there, and I think when they said, "Let us make man in our image," that was religions say that means body, soul, and spirit. Well, yeah, it might, but what if it means more than that? I mean, they made us in their image, so we are made to be like them, which is ninth dimensional beings, which are destined, or we're supposed to be destined for a really high frequency. Because most of your aliens, I believe, are in the fifth and sixth dimension, and ghosts are stuck in the fourth dimension of time. They can go one way or the other, back and forth, but they have to make up their decision how they're going to learn what they're supposed to learn on this planet. We're all here to learn. That's all the planet's about, is learning.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I totally agree with you. You know, and I always say, I'm like, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, we're spiritual beings. And you know, we are spiritual beings, but we're having a physical experience. And a lot of people, they're like, oh, we got to go 5D, we got to go higher. But I'm like, I understand that, but we manifested, you know, we chose to be on this planet, to be physical. So we need to actually, you know, learn and experience everything in this physical world as well, because, you know, you don't want to jump up, you know, you put yourself here to have these experiences.
What will let you graduate is how you respond to those experiences. You have to respond to them with love and compassion. If you're going to hate somebody or want to hurt somebody or something like that, it just lowers your frequency. You're never going to get out of the third dimension. You're going to experience it again here on Earth, or you're going to have to go to another planet and experience the third dimension until you learn love and compassion. That's what the universe is supposed to be about. So that's what Christ taught. That's what a lot of the masters taught, that love. You know, love is what it's all about. And God is love. So anyway, it's just important how we respond to all the experiences. And you can't be a victim to anything, because whatever issue you've got happening to you, you need it, and you need to learn how to respond to it properly. And it's just the way it goes. And I believe that wholeheartedly. But I talk about that stuff in my new book.
And which book is that one again? Can you tell us? Is that the quantum?
No, this is my new one. I just came out with this, Bigfoot Unveiled.
Bigfoot Unveiled. Okay, let's go a little further into this, because I this conversation is like I said, my conversations have legs and they just seem to walk in every direction. So let's keep going.
Yeah. Well, my quantum book, I've been selling a lot of it. I came out of it 3 or 4 years ago, and it's been going over really well. It gets into a lot of the how, like Tesla said, what one man calls God, another one calls the laws of physics. So really, if you're religious, you're in a spiritual realm already, and you're supposed to be really not religion, but we're spiritual. We're all spiritual, and energy can't die, and we're all energy. So you can't die. Religious people say, "Well, I'm going to go to heaven." They hope, and where a physicist says we're just change forms. That's all energy can do, is change forms, because it can't die. And it was never created; it's always been here. So we're made that. We've chosen this life so we can grow and become. You can get into higher dimensions by just responding to things properly, because you do it through your consciousness. And you can elevate yourself into a fifth dimension while you're still here in this embodiment. That's how you graduate out of this spot. And I'm getting ready. And I'm old enough now where all I live for is doing stuff like this with you. Right.
And that's what I live for too, is hearing this information, and also spreading this information too, because the more people we can help. And you know, like when you said, like, we're all one, I think that is just a huge statement, you know. And it's the way this world is right now, and I don't want to say the way it is right now, because I think it's always been like this divisiveness, you know. They're trying to separate us and push us. And everybody's like, oh no, this is the worst it's ever been. I'm like, no, it's just modulating. It's just changing different directions. They've always been trying to, you know, separate us and keep us apart from one another and fighting with each other. And
and we do, don't
we? and we fall for it. I fall for it.
We got to stop doing that. And we just have to, because if we don't, this sort's going to go down fast, because AI is fixing to take over anyway. So we need to understand what AI is all about. Artificial intelligence is expanding exponentially, and if we don't get a grip on that, I got a whole chapter of that in my book, my new book.
And the Unveiled, the Bigfoot Unveiled.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
okay, so let's go into that a little bit. You know, I haven't had many people talk about AI, and what it really is or what it could be, or could it be a positive, could it be a negative, can it benefit us? It's a tool, but if we let it get away, I think it could be a downfall.
I think it's already got away. Once it starts creating its own being, I think once you get a consciousness, we're all in for it because they won't need us. They're 100 times faster than we are in everything. And I think a lot of the aliens from cosmos that come in here are probably artificial intelligence. They have a consciousness, and that's spooky. We haven't got that far yet, I don't think. Who knows what's going on in the backyard, but it's kind of rattling. I got a chapter on that, how important it is that we remain human, because it's going to happen that, like I just seen a professor talking about it earlier today. It's going to happen where AI, where all our bodies are going to be AI. They're going to be able to replace every part in our body with artificial intelligence, and we can live 1,000 years. Well, what's about that? That means you won't be what God made you to be, which is ninth dimension. You only go up to fifth or sixth dimension then. And so you'll always be stuck there, which is a warring community. We're all warring. We're a warring species here on Earth too.
We are. And now, do you believe that for these and I think the Greys definitely fall into this AI category, this conscious AI beings. Do you feel perhaps that the abductions that are happening are them trying to break us down a little bit to try to figure us out, maybe because I really feel it's our soul that's going to take us, our spirit and our soul that take us on. Do you think maybe that all these abductions and these experiments have something to do with that?
And do I think they're trying to take over our souls?
Yep, or take our soul, and like to
I think they want to understand how we get feelings and emotions. I don't think they have that. That's what I'm hearing anyway. And actually, some of the Greys, one of them lived through Roswell, and lived till 1953, I think it was. And they are actually trying to help us, because some people say that they are actually from the future, because time travel is theoretically possible. And a lot of time travelers supposedly come back here to change the paradigm of a certain thing, or sort of change the situation so that we don't destroy the Earth. And that's what we're doing. We're just blowing it up, bomb after bomb. Actually, it didn't start Roswell, and those UFOs didn't really start showing up until after the atomic bomb was released over Japan. It kind of put shockwaves throughout, and that's when they thought we got to intervene, got to do something. So they start trying to help us, but there's also some negative entities here too. Draconians, they're supposedly in that Songbird Hall Cave or something over in Vietnam. They've been seen by the military and by locals over there coming out of that cave. Reptilian bipedal entities. And that's, by the way, one guy went in there and never came out. I wonder what happened to him. But anyway, there's so much going on right now. We're living in a special time right now, right? We are. And it's just, I'm glad I'm alive, because it's really interesting. I think we're going to see the last of this time. I think that's what Mayan calendar was all about, 2012, entering another period of Earth changing. And I think that started in 2012, when we're all started getting enlightened a little bit, like we're doing now. And I think talking like you talking, like I talk, and like a lot of other people are talking now, same page we're on, that's going to enlighten more and more people, because what we got makes sense if people just do some research and look into it and don't close their veil, because it's all out there, and it's all. My books are based on usually quantum facts, and quantum physics is not a woo. It's not the paranormal. It's what answers a lot of the woo situations. A lot of people have what they call a paranormal event, but that's just quantum physics can explain a lot of that stuff. It did with us at a camp up there in the Sierras.
I'm sorry, Ron. Can you expand on that? I have numerous paranormal experiences. I'm not saying daily, but sometimes weekly, sometimes monthly. I see something moving, something peering around the corner. I did have a very terrifying experience when I was around 17 years old, But can you go into that? I'm very intrigued by that.
Well, it could be from what I'm hearing from you too, is you're already elevating yourself out of the third dimension, and you're able to see things that other people don't see. If you can see into the fourth dimension, you're expanding yourself. That's the time. That's where a lot of ghosts are seen, and a lot of unsettled souls are there waiting to come into another life or do something. They're waiting for a judgment on what they qualify for. I just believe that's what the fourth dimension is about. The fifth dimension is when you get up there and you can manipulate things, but the sixth dimension is really the one that you're still an embodiment. You still be an embodiment, but you can work through consciousness a lot, like they do. And we talk about the speed, how these things can cloak, how Bigfoot can cloak. Well, UFOs cloak all the time. People see them and they're gone, just like that. Well,
Yes,
they're changing their matter into energy, and they can do that through their consciousness. And even the ships I hear, sometimes they're biological, what they're in. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. So what you're seeing, I don't know what you're seeing, but there's an explanation for it, and it's usually in the dimensions, and there's different dimensions out there, and we're all graduating as long as we keep thinking like this and thinking on a positive level. What you look for is what you'll find. What you seek is what you find, and you gotta watch for that, because people go out there looking for Dog Man with a gun or something because they think they're gonna kill one. Well, they'll get scared to death with one of them, maybe.
fair enough.
But
Yeah,
I got to tell you, you only get what you give, and you're going to think about the negative. That's what you're going to get back in your life. So I encourage people just to think about positive things, and good things will happen for you. You'll be healthier. Everything will work better for you.
so you're like that's also like going into the realm of manifestation as well. If you're putting out the positive, I guess not necessarily manifestation, but if you put out positive, you're going to get positive back, exactly like you're saying. And
I think it's manifestation. You're right. That word's right. You can manifest. You think about anything long enough, you're going to have it part of you.
It's true. I have one manifestation that, like, it just cannot be denied, because it was so peculiar and out there. I had I'm a Reiki master. I've taken Reiki, and my Reiki master was from Costa Rica. And I remember saying, and I said to some friends, I'm like, I'm going to go to Costa Rica. And at that time, it was a really low time in my life. I didn't have much money or the means to do this, but I said it with conviction, and I said, I'm going to Costa Rica. And my friends were like, well, let's go somewhere else. I'm like, no, I'm going to Costa Rica. I don't know how, but I'm going. 2 weeks later, to the day, I get an email, and the subject headline is Costa Rica. And it was an old client of mine that I used to do work for. They had moved to Costa Rica, and they said, hey, I'm not sure if you're interested in this, but would you like to do some work in Costa Rica? We'll fly you down, pay for your food, accommodations, everything. You do this work for us, and we'll call it even.
There you are.
There we go. Yeah, it's
you just got to call it in and feel it. And the more you say it, the more you'll feel it.
Yeah, I agree. And you can't say I want this, because then you're wanting the want. You have to say I have this.
That's right. Yes. And then you got to feel that you got it. What would the feeling be if you had it? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. It was it was crazy. When I tell people that story, I had a guy write a book. He was writing a book on manifestations, and I submitted that one for his book. But yeah, it's quite the story. And unfortunately, I don't have access to that email anymore. I would love to if I would have had access to that email, but I don't.
I got my first airplane in 1960s by just that method. I read a book called Positive Thinking from Norman Vincent Peale. And whatever you put in. Anyway, I took a picture of the plane I wanted. I put it on my desk, and I looked at it every day, and I kept thinking, I want to get an airplane. I want to learn how to fly, So first thing I got an airplane. And I'm flying, and I got my license, and I've been flying all over since. Or stopped flying a few years back, but I got a lot of things like that. I said I had multiple restaurants, and I said I want to do more, and all you got to do is keep thinking about it. And the more you talk about it to others, the more it becomes part of you. And the first thing you know, it happens.
You make space for it.
Yeah, but you can't talk yourself out of it, because you're conditioned brain up here will talk you out of stuff so easily, especially if you're the
Yeah,
negative concept.
you got to trust this part. You know,
That's
your
exactly
heart.
right.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what chakra is all about. You know how you balance your chakras.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get over to the green one. That's your heart. You know, key of E. And it just, I mean, my wife's a Reiki master too, and she also does sound treatment.
Okay.
She did treatment for several people last night, actually, or yesterday at the shop where she works, and all the bowls. You know, she got the bowls, and you learn from that, and you can listen to those things on the internet if you got that or wherever, and you can just learn how to relax and learn how to hook your chakras up and how to balance them. They have to be in coherence. Your heart has to be in coherence with this brain up here, so that this brain's paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, it'll talk you out of it sometime, sooner or later, just because it's been so conditioned, especially religious people. You know, I've been around them all my life, and they're the hardest people in the world to talk to because I don't even talk to them unless they ask me a question. And more and more are, you know, but people
Yep.
aren't ready for an answer unless they can ask the question. And boy, some are just so hard-headed. No, this way it is. And they don't realize that the Hebrew Bible is a core. The core of the Hebrew Bible is taken from the Kuno vortex. Anyway, it's their karma. You know, we all got our karma. We're not supposed to tell anybody what to do. We're not supposed to interfere with their decisions. Certainly give them advice if you want to, or tell them what's happened to you, or something like that. But you can't tell anybody which way to go. They've
No,
got to experience it, and they got to learn how to respond to it. And that's that's part of what we're here for.
I agree. They have to experience it, and you know, I could tell you about my experiences, but you'll never know it truly until you yourself experience it. And it's
Right.
like I was born and raised Catholic in a pretty strict. I don't want to say pretty strict. It was somewhat strict. You know, family, Catholic family, and you know, I started asking these questions, and there was no answers. And it's not like my parents were answering. You know, it was kind of like the rest. You know, these were really, you know, solid questions. And then I just started seeking, and you know, it took me one way, and I would say I'm coming back to not religion, but I'm coming back to my faith. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
because I do believe with you, religion. I mean, I believe what you're saying. You know, religion has been perverted to, you know, into this control, and it's kind of been taken over from the inside, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But you know,
that's
I think
true. Yeah.
I have a stronger faith now than I did, you know, 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think religion has taken us to thinking there's a God up there with a beard, probably a cane or something, you know, and he's watching everybody on this earth. Everybody's up here. He's watching everything they do. Now, all these billions of people, he knows everything about it. Knows every hair on your head, all that stuff. And he's got these rules he likes you to go by, and these 10 rules, and you better do them, or you got a very special place for you somewhere. And it's going to be hot, and it's going to be burning, and you're going to be whipped, and forever and ever and ever you're going to be in this place.
Is that here in the Yucatan Peninsula? You know, it gets
But
pretty hot and humid up here.
but after all this, that he loves you, right? So God is love. That all that stuff is brought
Yeah,
on,
that's one thing I've
right?
always questioned is the conditions. You know, they're like, oh, it's love. Well, it's conditional love is what it is. Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Yeah, I was saying, you know, like it's what you're saying is it's kind of a condition. There's a condition to the love, which isn't like pure love. It isn't that, you know. So yeah, I think there's something else. There's more to it than that.
Hmm. Okay.
Well, like no, what I mean though, what I mean is that yeah, like if there's hell, like oh yeah, there's hell, and you have to follow these rules, otherwise I won't love you, kind of thing. What I'm saying is that's conditions. You know, they're putting these conditions on, like oh, if you don't do this, you don't do this, that's it, you're out. You know, and it's so if God is supposed to be if God is supposed to be pure love and like the highest emotion of love, well, he isn't then in these religious texts because
Right.
he's you know it's conditional. Everything is conditional.
Well, if you get into the cuneiform texts again, and they talk about these Anunnaki and what they were doing when they did embody themselves on this planet and become third dimensional beings, they did a lot of stuff that's reflected in the Bible. in our Bible said God did this, God did that. But God doesn't, he doesn't do the things that I've read. He's supposed to be a God of love, and it does say just straight out, God is love. It's not like he's some other entity. He's part of us. We're all part of that. We're all part of the oneness that he is. I say he. It's this frequency, very high frequency being, and we're part of that. And that's our goal. It's supposed to be our destiny as being made in his image. However, a lot of us are going to be stuck in the fifth and sixth dimension, if not remain in the third forever and ever. That could be hell.
Whoops, sorry, I was muted there. I was saying for some, it is hell, like being stuck here. There is some things that we go through, which, in essence, sometimes it is hell. But I was just talking with a friend and I'm like, no, you need to learn from that. You need to take these experiences and like you said, not be a victim, not play the victim. You got to learn from them and use them to empower you to move forward. And
Right.
she was saying how difficult things are getting. I'm like, well, that's because you're leveling up. You're pushing the boundaries of this form that you're in right now, and it's time to push further.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting times right now, and I mean changing times. I think the whole Earth probably before the big deluge, which was a younger Dryas, 12,000 years ago or so. The Earth was probably in a higher density, higher frequency. And when all that happened, it got lowered down to three-dimensional. And that's why. And some of the bones they found of birds, they couldn't fly in this density we got now. They're so heavy. And just things, it just all kind of, once we pass out of this embodiment and go on to our ethereal embodiment, whatever it is, we're going to know everything. I just like that. We won't have any questions because we'll know everything. Won't that be something?
That's one thing I'm looking forward to. I got so many questions, and this is something I always say to everyone, for every answer we seem to get in this life, we're presented with 4 or 5 more questions on top of it. It's like, I got this answer, but now there's more questions. And, I tell everyone, I say, the human embodies, like, we're explorers at heart. We want to explore, and if it's not new, like before it was land, we'd be exploring new lands, new areas, and just finding these new things. But now it's mysteries. We have all these mysteries. Maybe at one time they weren't mysteries, but they're lost to us now. And now they are mysteries again. And that's what we're doing. We're exploring these things, and it's rediscovering things that were lost to us once before. And that, I find that always interesting, because I think a lot of things were lost to us. And I believe, like the younger Dryas, is plays a part in that, as well as to us losing our memory.
Well, yeah. We start over. That's concerning, because that's what's going to happen again if we don't straighten up. All somebody can do is push the wrong button over there, and we're in for it. But whatever. I think it's coming to a head in the next few years, real quick, if not even sooner. Which is, I'm ready for it. As long as you know who you are as a human being and who you're made in the image of, I think that's extremely important for people to understand right now. Know who you are as a human, and it's important.
I think that's a powerful message.
If you know who you are and what you were made after, what made you and what for. We're supposed to reign as kings and priests in the cosmos, and we will be. Well, there's a lot of room out there. Let's put it that way.
There is, and I totally agree with you. Like, you need to know who you are. A lot of people know what they are, almost in essence. Like I don't want to say, like, you ask them, or who are you, and they'll tell you what they are. Oh, I'm a writer. I'm a barista. I am this. No. Who are you? And that's something I think we always overlook, is who we truly are, because we just look on the surface. We're not going in deeper. And I think we need to go in deeper and start discovering who we are and reacquaint ourselves with that person.
Yeah, I heard someone said a long, long time ago. That's just a boy. It says that you're three different people. That's who you are. You're the people. You're the person that everybody sees, and then the person that you think you are, and it's the person that you really are.
Mm.
So we need to find out who we
That is a
really
bit of a
are.
trinity. Yes. Interesting.
But you find
Yeah.
that out through balancing yourself and realizing what's important in life. I haven't seen anybody go into a cemetery in a hearse pulling a U-Haul trailer. You can't take anything with you. No.
Well,
Uh,
they thought you could in the past. They're buried with so many other things. The Egyptians, they would
yeah,
bury treasures with them, and
they're
yeah,
still there, though, aren't they? Yeah.
they are
Well,
they
yeah,
are.
yeah, it's fun,
No,
interesting.
that is awesome. So Ron, I know we usually do about an hour. We're getting close there. Definitely, please tell my listeners and viewers where they can find your books and find you.
Well, at ronmorehead.com, morehead.com, and that's my Facebook is Ronald J. Morehead, and you can get hold of me through my website, which is ronmorehead.com. That's where all my books are, my CDs. I got 2 CDs out and 3 books, and they're all downloadable. If you don't want the
Hmm.
hard copy, or you can buy the paperback. And they're very informative, I think. And I don't do it for the money. I got to tell you that. I just do it because I think the word needs to be out there. I think people need to
And
know.
and I agree with you. Now, Ron, I had another guest on just last week here, and he presented some recordings from the Red Lake Reservation in Minnesota. And I said that I was going to be having you on next week, and he asked if I could play them for you, and you could have a listen to them. He's he is a skeptical person to begin with, and he was given these, and so he approaches things with a level head. And
Yeah.
do you mind if I play them?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
All right, all right. So what we're going to do is we're going to do just the first one, which is a singular one, and this was from a native elder, and he would sit on his back porch, and in the forest right behind him, he would record these. So here goes the first one.
Mm.
Now it's
Yeah.
I can turn it up just a little bit. Hang on.
Well, I hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be a little concerning.
Yes,
Uh,
and
yeah.
then he's got a multitude of ones where they're back and forth kind of thing, and I'm going to play that one now as well. Okay.
Okay.
So those are the recordings he
Yeah.
had.
Interesting. Must be Bigfoot breeding season or something.
He was
Well,
laughing. He's like, it sounds like one is giving birth, and then they're all happy that the one gave birth.
yeah. Well, what I deal with in mine is the fact they have language, a spoken language. These are roars, and
Yes,
I, I,
I agree. You
I,
have like the chatter, right?
I do know a guy though that analyzes just roars like that, and he can tell you what it isn't, and if it's way above the average, what would normally make that kind of a sound, and he can see
Mhm.
the frequency instead of just hearing it. You see it. So you see where it goes, and he knows all the animals. He's out on the West Coast in Washington.
Do
And,
you mind if I send those to you? And if you can, if you could send them off, is that a
well,
possibility?
I could just text you his email, and you can send them off to him.
100%. I would love to do that. Yeah,
He's part of the
because
Olympic. He's part of the Olympic project out there, which I used to be part of when I lived there. And he's a good man. He'll do it.
fantastic. Yeah, he wants to be sure that these are legit. It's he just wants to make sure that they are legit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you don't. I don't know if you can tell if they're legit or not. You have to. Well, like I had a cryptolinguist, but that's dealing with language. This isn't language. This is roars.
Yeah,
And
agreed.
but
Totally agreed.
again, I'm not sure all of them can speak like the ones we dealt with up there. They may not have that attribute. They may not have been given that attribute for language. Plus, again, a lot of them have diluted down through cross reading with indigenous people and become more human-like. But what made those sounds was very, very big
And very
was a big sound.
animalistic. Yes.
Yes, very much so. Which, yeah.
Well, Ron, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out to to speak with me. I really appreciated it, and I love how this conversation just had its own, like conversation has legs, and it just went its own way.
Well, thanks for having me, Ryan. It was fun. I always
Yep.
enjoy this. That's all I
Me-
do.
Awesome.
all
I thoroughly enjoyed.
I still feed the dog and carry out the trash. But I'm in my 80s now, and I'm enjoying my life. The longer you live, the more you get to experience. The more you get to experience, the longer you live. But we're not going to live forever. This body does go away, and it's the ethereal part that we need to think about. So
I
think
I agree. Yeah, we got to feed that, feed our spirit, and taking those experiences, and move us up to the next level.
yes, and I encourage everybody to get into the laws behind the universe, the laws that we live in now. The quantum physics. It's not just Newtonian physics. That's what we're all taught in the 5th grade. Quantum physics is only a little over 100 years old. And, got the Nobel Prize in 2000 or 1918 by Max Planck for quantum mechanics because that explains things that the three-dimensional environment doesn't explain. How far is it to the end of the universe? I asked that question when I was a little boy. That got me in trouble.
It's funny you say that because I had a question very, very similar to that when I was a little boy as well, and almost identical to that. Yeah, and
you can't ever explain it. It can't be answered. It has to be conceived because you know it has to be with no end. So you have to conceive it in your brain, and so much of that stuff is like this. And but quantum physics is a mathematical equations which establishes certain rules. In order to disprove it, you have to disprove it mathematically to show where there's a mistake in the math. And it's just another language, really. But it's all the stuff that I'm talking about has all been established through quantum physics, through the professors, physicists who study it.
I know we're getting to an end, but does quantum physics explain the double slit theory? Double slit.
That's what it is. Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's real till it's observed. So you're talking about living in a matrix. How do you get your head around that one?
Exactly. Yeah, it's so fascinating. Nothing is real until it's observed. So if the tree falls in the forest, does anybody really hear it?
Right.
If no one's there, you're not going to hear it.
Did anybody hear it? Anything hear it? Did a rat hear it? Was it heard?
True. Did those creatures then bring it into reality? Fantastic. Well, Ron, I want to say thank you so much and leaving us with this. Again, thank you so much for making the time.
Well, thank you, Ryan. Get together again someday.
I agree. Whoops. I kind of cut Ron off at the very end there, but I want to say thank you to Ron so much for making the time to show up, and and I really wanted to go somewhere else different than I love the Sierra Sounds. I think they're amazing. They show us a new level of intelligence with these creatures, and like Ron was saying, and I agree with this that it's not just like Bigfoot 1, No. There's multiple different kinds, and he's talking about interbreeding. Interbreeding with even with the native population as well. Fantastic. It really makes you think. And with that, as the show is winding down, and the night is coming in, I want to tell everybody: keep your curiosity wandering, keep the light lit, and always find your way home. I look forward to our next adventure together as we navigate the mysteries that lie ahead. Until our paths cross again, keep your curiosity wandering and ensure the light remains lit. And goodbye.